Yep.
Deja vu for you, or a little bit worse than that?
Good morning. Allow me to call our meeting to order, this PSTA Board of Directors meeting, May 24th, 2017. Commissioner Patty Johnson, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and everyone please rise.
Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'd also like to remind our PSTA board that immediately following our board meeting this morning, we're going to have a PSTA 101 session that will be a great opportunity for both new board members and those of us who have been on the board for a while, since we're going to undoubtedly learn something new, and as well as remind us of the purpose of the board, to serve our community with good public transit. And it takes a lot of hard work by our many employees, 365 days a year. And it's timed so wonderfully for the addition of our newest board member. I would like to welcome Commissioner Richard Bennett from North Reddington Beach, who will be representing the beach communities. Glad to have you here. Thank you. We're going to go to public comment next. Thank you for everyone coming to our meeting this morning. We will have an opportunity to hear from everyone who wishes to speak. Now is the opportunity for public comment on the consent agenda or any other topic not on today's agenda. For those of you who'd like to speak on items on the agenda, we'll give you the opportunity when that item comes up in the meeting. So please, for those of you who'd like to speak now, fill out a green card and then hand it to Rachel. Rachel, raise your hand at the front and we'll get it taken care of. So we have two public comment cards. Our first one is Mr. Tom Rask. 3 minutes, please.
Morning, Tom Rask, unincorporated, Pinellas County. If I heard the chair correctly, I think she said we must rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. That's not correct. You may want to check with your agency counsel on that. I came here to talk about three things. One is ridership, because if the citizens don't talk about ridership, no one else does. The ridership continues to plunge, I would say. Despite PSTA doing lots of free rides in April, which increased ridership among non-revenue generating trips by 22,448, that was dwarfed by the decline in revenue producing trips, which declined by 75,736 trips. That puts the ridership so far this fiscal year at down by 7%, and you are headed for a 10-year low. So the revenue hours, the revenue miles have not been cut. This is something I've been asking for ever since Greenlight Pinellas failed, because PSTA did in fact say that if Greenlight Pinellas failed, you would cut, will. That means you shall cut. You must cut, but you haven't. Also, I wanted to comment on the new website, which has had the effect that the #1 visited page on the new website is the Oops, Something Went Wrong page, the 404 page. There are lots of old documents, specifically in the folder that was psta.net/PDF, PDF in all caps. They're gone now. They were linked from, they were both indexed and linked from Google, and we can't access them now. So something went wrong in the switch over to the new site. Maybe it was deliberate. Maybe PSTA wanted these documents to disappear down a memory hole. I don't know. But they're no longer accessible to the public. The third thing I want to talk about is I sent the board an email on Monday about a sunshine law violation at your February board meeting. I laid it out. It was short. I asked that you ask the question of your agency counsel, Mr. Zimmett, whether he thinks a sunshine law violation occurred. Briefly, he laid out what you had to do in order to award the contract to Jolly Trolley. And then, as far as I can see, you proceeded to not do what he told you that you had to do. And I cite an Attorney General opinion. It appears to me that the public was not able to observe the entire decision-making process. So I'd like to hear some comments on that so we can avoid a lawsuit. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rask. Since the topic you're referring to is subject to a current lawsuit, I will ask our counsel, Mr. Alan Zemet, to respond, and we will not have the board make comments. Thank you.
Well, as you said, the decision of the board is a subject of a lawsuit brought by First Transit. I don't want to go into very much detail, but I will say this: I saw Mr. Rask's email, and he's got absolutely no evidence of a sunshine law violation of any communications between two or more members of the PSA board outside of the meeting, and I see no evidence of any sunshine law violation.
Okay, thank you. Our next speaker is Vivian Peters. Thank you, Mr. Zemet.
My name is Vivian Peters. I live in Largo. I would like to address the comment that system maps are no longer available. Not everybody has access to a computer. If for the casual visitor here, where do the buses go? I don't know. Can I get a map that shows me where the buses go? No, it doesn't exist. The things for individual buses, you have to come to here or go to someplace else to get a map. You can't see where the buses go anymore on the buses themselves. They're not available. Weekends or something like that, somebody comes to town, where do the buses go? Where does that bus go? I don't know. Where can I find out where that bus goes? Some of the shelters, you know, the bus stops don't have a map. Some of the shelters have maps, but that doesn't tell somebody that just came here where they go. So therefore, it discriminates against people that do not have access to a computer, who don't have a smartphone or something like that. As I said, tourists come, beach week, yeah. Where can I go in Pinellas County other than run up and down the beach? I don't know. Can I get a map? Can I find out where what I can do? And I don't have time to sit on the phone for half an hour to somebody here where they try to figure out, because I don't necessarily know where I want to go until I see where I can go. So as I said, I think this definitely needs to be addressed, and both the schedules and a map needs to be readily available for individuals who just moved to Pinellas County. So as I said, it is something that needs to be addressed, and it can't necessarily say, oh, well, you can go here or you can go there. Well, maybe they don't have time to go here and there to try to find out something. And some people assimilate information better by looking at it, by reading it, not just listening on a phone to something. So as I said, this definitely discriminates against individuals who don't have some modern technology, which it makes it easier for a lot of us to get around. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Peters. Brad, would you address that, please?
Thank you, Ms. Peters, and welcome back. Good to see you here to try to improve our system. Your information is not accurate. I believe almost all of our 700 plus shelters in Pinellas County have a system map. We still produce the system map in limited quantities. I'll go ahead and give you a copy. I'll give you a copy today, and you can have that. We have the system map. We did make a decision to no longer include the paper individual schedules on our PSTA buses as a cost-cutting and cleanliness matter, because we had so many of those that were left. It was becoming somewhat of an issue, but we have received a lot of comments about that, and so we are going to include in this coming year's budget a limited number of paper individual route schedules, especially to pass around, to put on the buses when we change the service 3 times a year, so the customers can have a copy. So we're making a little bit of adjustment to that, but the system map is available.
Great. Thank you. So those are all the comment cards we have for the public comment session. So we will move on to the rest of our agenda. And we have a presentation. It's some exciting news, the success of our TD late shift program that has received national attention. And Aaron Berglund, PSTA's multimedia specialist, he's going to give us an update and kind of tell us a little bit what to expect for next year. Come on up.
Good morning. My name is Aaron Berglund. I am the multimedia coordinator here at PSTA. As the multimedia coordinator, one of the things I do is share the stories of riders, of innovative programs, and things that relate to PSTA. And one of the best ways I've found to share stories is through video. And one of these innovative programs that we found important to tell a story about is the TD Late Shift program. The TD Late Shift program provides rides for second and third shift workers who would not otherwise be able to get to work without paying $30, $40 for a taxi ride. So this is done in the hours that public transportation is not available. And this is made possible thanks to a grant we received from the Commission of Transportation Disadvantaged, and with our partners, Uber, United Taxi, and Care Ride, who provide rides for our TD riders all hours of the night. And to better understand what they're going through, what this program's really doing for our riders, we decided to engage the TD riders who are using this program, and we found that an overwhelming amount of riders wanted to share their stories. So we filmed them, and we had an interview and asked them questions. What does this program mean to you? And through these interviews, we were just so overwhelmed with all the positive stories that we were told that we decided we had to turn this into a testimonial video. And we shared this video with the Commission of Transportation Disadvantaged earlier this year and during a presentation. And after they saw this video, they were very touched by the impact that the TD Late Shift program is having in Pinellas County, and have awarded PSTA $505,000 for the TD Late Shift program. And if I may, I would like to share their story with you.
My name is Jordan Metz. I work at AGR and I'm also a full-time student.
My name is Jamel Williams, and the program is important to me because it helps me be closer with my family.
My name is Heather Stuckrath, and the program is important to me because it has allowed me to become a full-time employee, making more money for my family, giving me a safe way home at night.
It gets me home safe, secure to my children. I mean, I used to get home almost an hour, hour and a half later than scheduled. If I got off at 9 o'clock, I wouldn't get home till 11. So I have to walk long blocks. You know, and long blocks late night on the south side of St. Pete. It's very dangerous.
The TD Late Shift program is important to me because it helps me work a longer shift and be able to work later hours and be able to get home earlier so I could get more sleep to make it to school on time in the morning.
Now that I'm full-time, my family can have medical benefits.
It's Christmas time, so it's definitely going to play a major role in the Christmas Avenue, being able to buy them some more toys and stuff like that.
Now with that extra money, I'm able to buy more stuff for my daughter and buy more stuff for my household with the money I've saved.
So it's very important that we are able to get around town, and this program makes it possible.
And just thank you very much for allowing it to happen.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you, Aaron.
Do you want to make any?
Oh, sure. Well, as you can see, most of you know that I spent quite a bit of time with Aaron because he's my video man for our Friday videos, and you have been in some of the videos with him. He's very talented at making videos, but he's also very good at, Aaron is a very passionate young man who very much, anytime we are out with riders or customers shooting video, he has a great heart. And whether it's giving them bus passes to get where they need to go, or getting these good people on video talking about how they have a job because of these programs, he's a really great person to have. And just shows the power of using videos in ways that we hadn't even expected, using it to advocate on behalf of getting a grant, which helps our citizens. So thank you, Aaron, very much.
Well done.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Great job. Thank you. And the grant will support this program for the next year.
That's right, yeah, the Commission for Transportation Disadvantage met last week and voted to support our second-year funding for the program. The $505,000 was the most they awarded to any transit agency, so it's very, very positive.
Great. Thank you. Okay, that's some great news indeed. We'll move on to our committee updates. And our first committee update, item 4A, is our Transit Riders Advisory Committee. And we're going to hear from the chair of that group, Gloria Lepic-Corrigan. Good morning.
Morning. Before I ruin it. Thank you. Good morning, Chairman Rice, Mr. Miller, and esteemed board members. The PSTA Track Committee meeting was held on May 16th of 2017. John Estock from Safety Harbor gave us a report on the activities of the Forward Pinellas Citizens Advisory Committee. He is currently a member of both committees. And as some of you know, the Forward Pinellas Board approved a new position on the CAC specifically designated for a PSTA track member. And several of our track members wanted to learn more about Forward Pinellas and the requirements of being a member of their CAC. We're very excited about this new opportunity to be officially recognized by the Forward Pinellas Board, and we look forward to bringing forward a nomination to the CAC next month. Then at our meeting, we had three important information presentations. First, the Regional Transit Feasibility Plan. Heather Sobish gave us the presentation that you had last month. We were very interested in this, particularly because supporting regionalism is one of the top initiatives for us this year as well. Then we had the public engagement outreach by Bob Lasher, who provided us with an update of PSTA's public outreach efforts over the past 6 months. And we were encouraged to continue to be involved as our time and resources are available. And then finally, the vision and mission statements. Brad Miller showed us the process and the current status of updating these important guidelines. We were pleased with what we saw, and we look forward to seeing their application in PSTA's programs. And then the last discussion we had was about how we will move forward with our 3 track initiatives for this year: safety, regionalism, and improved image and attractiveness of our facilities, like our bus stops. We asked for volunteers to assist in crafting our PSTA riders' positions and perspectives. And then we will be working with PSTA staff, most notably Cassandra Borchers and Marianne Sobosinski, to actually devise a plan for best presenting this information to you, our board, as well as other appropriate entities. The next track meeting will be held on Tuesday, June 20th at 4 p.m. here at the PSTA board. And again, we welcome all of you to attend our meetings as your time allows. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you for your report, Gloria. And I just wanted to note that Gloria and I had a very good meeting yesterday, and we brainstormed some ways that the track committee might better interface with the board of directors. And we came up with some ideas to work on, but Gloria is going to be setting up meetings, individual meetings with all of us at some point over the next few weeks. I believe she's already also met with you, Commissioner Johnson. So thank you so much. You're doing such a great job, and it's an important committee with important work. So thank you. Our next report is Forward Pinellas from Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I think I'm on now. This is a report primarily from the meeting.
You're on.
From the meeting of May 10th. Bill Jones, the FDOT District 7 new Director of Transportation, presented an update from the department, mainly discussing the reset for the Tampa Bay Express project. I believe that's now called the Tampa Bay Next project. The reset is defined by 3 R's: research, reevaluate, and respond. Director Jones provided an overview of the lessons learned at a recent St. Louis peer exchange trip, part of researching best practices. FDOT is also putting together community working groups, which will kick off with a regional group meeting today at the Brian Glacier Family Center over in Tampa at, I believe, 5:30. Director Jones also provided an update on some of the FDOT's current projects in Pinellas County, including the construction of the Howard Franklin Bridge, which is scheduled to begin in 2019, and the Gateway Express project that is anticipated to start construction this fall and be completed in 2022. The Forward Pinellas Board approved changes to the Citizens Advisory Committee that will allow a PSTA track committee member to participate. And we're happy that that happened. The other major item at the meeting was the Forward Pinellas Multimodal Priority Project List. This is the first step in the annual Transportation Improvement Program adoption. And there were initial updates and suggestions for a 17-18 list, which will be adopted finally at the June board meeting. The board discussed the importance of prioritizing the PSTA Central Avenue BRT project for funding. The draft list had that dropping in priority, and we wanted to make sure that there was no unintended consequences associated with that change. And I understand that staff has been working together, and that has now been restored to its previous position. As I said, that will be finally presented on the 14th of June. The executive director also gave an update on the legislative session, including the bill focused on the mission of TBARTA, changing from transportation to transit, and a bill giving $1 million funding to Forward Pinellas to assist with waterborne transportation grants in this area. And both are pending governor's review. And that's the report. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you. Seeing no questions, we'll move on to our consent agenda. Oh, I'm sorry. Pardon me. I almost skipped over our committee update, our Forward Pinellas Local Coordinating Board report from Commissioner Patty Johnson.
Thank you. The Local Coordinating Board met May 16th in downtown Clearwater.
with a busy agenda, including a presentation from the Homeless Empowerment Program, HEP, which is a TD coordination agency providing wraparound services for homeless individuals and families in North Pinellas County. Transportation was stated as a key to the success of their programs, with PSTA's support being critical. They also appreciate the FDOT-funded vehicles, which allow them to fill critical trip needs not readily available on the bus, including 4 trips a day to the C.W. Bill Young Bay Pines VA Medical Center. This led to a discussion of veterans' transportation, which will be the subject of a future LCB presentation. The LCB members reviewed and approved the TD grievance procedures, the TD program agreements, the TD service plan update, and the TD rate model. Sarah Caper of Forward Pinellas informed the LCB that the following day she would provide to the TD commissioners the county's endorsement of PSTA to be designated as the Community Transportation Coordinator for the next 5 years. The TD Commission approved this designation and approved the Trip and Equipment Grant, as well as the Mobility Enhancement Grant, TD Late Shift, thank you, for the year ahead, each with an increase in funding. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for that report. Moving along, we have our consent agenda items. If you'll take a look at what's on the consent agenda, and if there are any questions, comments, corrections to the minutes. If not,
To approve. Second.
okay. So we have a motion to approve from Commissioner Long and a second from Commissioner Johnson. I'm waiting on Clarissa. She's on the machine. And in just a moment, Clarissa will have the machine ready for voting. There we go. Oh, you know what? I thought I did. I'm a yes. For some reason, I'm not joined. I thought I was, but you can put me down as a yes. So, and we have Commissioner Finger is absent.
She had you.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. The consent agenda passes 14-0. Is our action items, and item 6A is the fiscal year 2018 federal program of projects. We're going to hear from Debbie Leos. We don't have a PowerPoint today. We've had the opportunity, I know, to review this in our planning committee and perhaps other committees as well. Our first action item this morning is to approve the 2018 federal grant program of projects, which is recommended unanimously by the PSTA Planning Committee. So we'll hear more from Debbie Leos on this item.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. As the chairwoman said, we are here today. The action item before you is to approve the federal program of projects and adopt Resolution 17-03. The approval is required in order for us to make our Federal Transit Administration grant applications that are due by the end of June. And then these funds will be available for us for fiscal year 18 budget. We held a public hearing last Wednesday, May 17th. There was no public in attendance, and to date we have not received any public comment on the program of projects. We receive approximately $14 million worth of discretionary grants every year. And included in there are such things as our replacement buses, passenger shelters, technology improvements. Included in your package is a list of those program of projects. This will not be the last time that you see them. They will be included in our capital budget going forward for fiscal 18 through 22. In addition, you'll get to see more details on them as we bring them forth to the board for votes on any items over 100,000, which is almost all the items on the list. Are there any questions regarding the program of projects?
Any questions from board members? And do we have any public comment? Mr. Rask, I believe your card is 6B, not 6A, correct? Okay, we have no public comments. Mr. Zemet, would you please read the resolution? Oh, I'm sorry.
Madam Chair, I just had one question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry about that. I was late to punching. On the replacement revenue vehicles that you have here, the $4 million, and then down below on the $1 million, what are those vehicles?
We actually don't have a specified type of vehicle at this point in time. We want to be open to technology. However, for the purpose of computing the number, we used hybrid, the BAE hybrid buses at this time,
Okay.
so that we could put a placeholder on it.
That's a placeholder, but
Yes,
not a
that's
decision.
correct.
Thank you.
Mr. Zemet.
Resolution 1703, a resolution of the Pinellas Suncoast Transit Authority authorizing the filing of an application and the submission of any other requested assurances, documents, and other information by the Chief Executive Officer of the Pinellas Suncoast Transit Authority with the United States Department of Transportation for Sections 5307, 5339, 5337, and 5310 grants and or grant amendments under the Federal Transit Administration Act of 1964 as amended.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion to approve?
Move approval.
Second.
Okay, I heard the motion from Commissioner Long and a second from Commissioner Barkley. And Clarissa, when you're ready, please open the voting system and commissioners be prepared to vote. And I'm still not.
I don't think any of us have it.
Where do I vote? Yes. It says I've joined, but, oh.
There we are.
Okay, so you should have something on your screen in which you can vote from your screen. If you're having a challenge, you can cast a voice vote. And it looks like it passes 14-0. Thank you. Our next item is 6B, and it's our vision and... This item has been reviewed by the PSTA Board for the past several months, and the recommended statements are unanimously supported by the Executive Committee. Brad's going to walk us through the recommendations.
Good morning. So in your packet under this item is sort of a trip down memory lane from where our current mission and vision statements for the organization were created back in 2009 to the present. The reason that this is an action item before you today and that we're contemplating changing our mission and vision statement is related to another project that you'll be getting a full review next month at your June meeting. PSTA's in the middle of putting together business scorecards for the organization. This is a whole new evaluation process that some of you might be familiar with in your other parts of your life, where organizations tie their performance to a scorecard, like a report card on quantitative metrics. That PSTA is creating one for the organization. We're creating one for each department. There's going to be a new CEO evaluation process that you're going to see that the Executive Committee has reviewed that's going to have these quantitative targets, and then each employee is going to have the same thing. Well, all those metrics need to be tied to the overall goals of PSTA as an organization, and the principal statements that identify what the goals of the organization are our mission and vision statements. So those of you who were with us back in January, remember we had a workshop at the Collaborative Labs with Mark Ash, who is our consultant working on the business scorecard. You can see in the handout a summary of where we ended up that workshop on January 13th with a much shorter mission statement and a shorter vision statement. And then since January, staff has had a number of meetings and made a number of tweaks to the words that are incorporated there. And then the executive committee met back on May 1st and discussed this at length, made some, I think, good smart adjustments to it. And then you can see at the top of page 2 of the item, the recommended mission and vision statements by the executive committee. So the proposed mission statement would be, we connect people to places. And then the proposed vision statement would be to be the people's first choice for transportation and a driving force for social, environmental, and economic vitality in the community through innovation and partnership. I think the executive committee had a discussion about how we would best present this to the PSTA board in an efficient manner, and not necessarily have a long period of time where we would discuss revising it yet again. This version was presented to you back at your last meeting, and I haven't gotten any comments from any of the other board members other than what I received at the executive committee. So with that, I would recommend that we approve, that you would consider approving these new mission and vision statements for the organization.
Move approval. Thank you. Commissioner Johnson.
I guess I will second then, since I was going to make the motion.
Okay, so that, so we have a motion from Commissioner Long and a second from Commissioner Johnson.
Just a quick question.
Sure, sorry, Dave, I
No,
keep
that's
missing
okay.
you.
Again, I was late, so you looked this way first, and I hadn't pushed the button yet, so no problem. Could we possibly just take these separately? The mission, just have two separate votes, one for the mission and then one for the vision? Because I certainly support one, but not the other. And not getting into dialogue, it's just, for me, I just, if we could do that, I would appreciate it.
Is the motioner and the seconder open to that change?
I consider it a friendly amendment, so let's go with the mission. I move that we approve the first recommendation on mission. We connect, what was it? We connect people to places.
Second agrees.
Okay, and the second agrees. So we do have a motion and a second on the floor to approve the new mission statement.
Any discussion? Is there any discussion on this, on the mission?
We've heard.
That's good.
I'm not the chair.
Yeah,
Do we have a card? Did you have a card for this one? I didn't know if you had a card.
Yes,
Sorry,
yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Hold on just a minute. We do have a public comment card from Mr. Rask. And any board members that have comments, you can hit the button on your mic.
Well, I don't really see a point in commenting as the voting is going on, so.
No, please, you have 3 minutes.
I'd like to hear Mr. Zeman's comments. I know he's not my attorney, he's your attorney, but the voting's going on. I don't see the point. I don't.
Clarissa, can you wipe that voting clear, and we'll vote after public
Okay.
comment.
Thank you, Ms. Speak. Under the vision statement as well, I'll keep it brief on mission. I don't have taken out. One of the items you're going to have here is on, that was part of your consent agenda, was a settlement for $32,000 for a bus passenger had a door closed on her. So I'd like to see the word safe in there, but I like a short mission statement. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rask. Any other comments from our board members? Commissioner Twanga.
I'm compelled, so I'll just make this statement. I went through this again, and I had the previous time for a conversation, and I'll just make a comment, and then I can move along. I just said to connect people to places, keeping it really, really simple. That's what our mission is.
I'm sorry, you had suggested we connect people to places?
Virtually, very close to what's there. I went back and reviewed and changed what I had written the previous meeting. And this really comes from the workshop. And then I just said, let's just really keep it simple and just use infinitives, not get into language issues, but for both. And so I use for the first one, to connect people to places. It's a little bit of a change, I think, in the mission from previous missions. Because we're using other forms. It's really, I left the word transit out because it's, I make the assumption that is assumed. And so I just want to make that comment.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Long.
I think so. I am happy, as the mover of the motion, to add the word safely and to change the pronouns from we to, if that's the will of the board, to move the issue along.
So you just add the word safely at the end, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
To safely connect
Are we
people.
safe
Connect people to places safely?
to safely connect people?
Commissioner Johnson?
I'm uncertain as to what the current wording
To
is.
safely connect people to places. That was the motion put forward by Commissioner Long.
To safely
So
connect
that,
people to places.
let's just make it clear, that's a motion to amend the motion that's on the floor?
Yes.
Yes.
So we need a seconder to, where you were the maker of them, the original maker of the
I'll
motion.
second that.
And we have a seconder.
Okay.
Any other comments? Seeing none. Clarissa, we have, you've got it ready. So commissioners, please cast your vote for our mission statement to, and let's see, we need 2 more votes. Have all commissioners cast their
I'll
vote?
vote again if you want.
You shut us down.
Who are we missing?
You can record mine as a yes.
Who was missing?
So I'm going to vote orally? I'll vote yes.
That was,
Madam Chair.
have all 14 commissioners cast their vote?
Yes.
Okay. And could you please tally and announce the vote? Okay, it's unanimous 14-0. Thank you. Commissioner Long?
I would just like to make a point, Madam Chair, that this consensus on a large board that's so diverse. I've been on this board now going on 5 years, and we have changed the vision and the mission at least that many times. Could we please now make a commitment that we leave this subject matter alone for a little while? Because it seems to me we have a lot of big, important things to be discussing and should not be getting this far into the weeds.
Okay.
Thank you. Second that motion. I just had to say that for the sake of the board.
Well, thank you, and the point's well taken. We have reviewed this in depth, taken quite a bit of time as a group previously and in committee, and we did want to avoid getting into a wordsmithing session on the dais. We still need to adopt our vision statement. So moving right ahead into that.
Do we have comments from the board on it?
Bill, I'm about to take comments from the board. Thank you. Anyone who needs to make a comment or have something to comment about our vision statement, please hit the button on your mic. And I believe we also have Mr. Rask who wanted to speak to this item.
Thank you, Tom Rask, unincorporated Pinellas County. I'm a little bit unclear on what the process here, because for the vision, for the mission, there was a motion, a second discussion, and then, I believe, citizen comment. Here, there's no motion on the floor, but I just wanted to point that out. Also, thank you to Commissioner Long for adding the word safely. She did say that you've changed the vision and mission several times in the last few years, but I read in this document that the current vision and the current mission were adopted in 2009. So I also sense that some things have changed through the years, but it says here that the current one is from 2009. Now, the current vision is quick, affordable transportation. The recommended, because the proposed vision is much longer. I said before, I like short. Social strength. What is that? I don't know what social strength is, but you want to be a driving force for social strength. Economic strength. I don't know what economic strength is. I know it's not economic growth. It's not economic vitality, which is a term that was used in some of your other, I can't remember if it was the previous, it was the current mission statement or the previous mission statement. So I don't know what the vision statement should be, but I think it should be shorter. I don't think it should get into areas like being a driving force for social strength. I don't even know what that means. Also, I have many times before talked about that I feel that elected officials, not just on this board, but on other boards, don't take their oaths of office seriously. And your oath of office requires you to support both the Florida and the U.S. constitutions. Now, maybe I heard Chair Rice wrong before when she said we must stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. That's a possibility I heard her wrong, but I haven't heard her say I heard her wrong. And there is a Supreme Court decision from 1943, West Virginia Board of Education versus Barnett. So while our soldiers were dying for liberty, the Supreme Court said you don't have to salute during the Pledge of Allegiance. So I bring that up to say that there could be people in here. I always stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Just to be clear, it's not about me, but there are people who are Jehovah's Witnesses. There are other people who don't necessarily want to stand. So I have a problem when government says we must do something or we're required to do something. I am sticking to the subject. I'm leading up to it, Madam Chair. And what I'm saying is that what I'd like to see in this statement is a statement that PSTA upholds, and its board is committed to upholding both the Florida and the U.S. Constitution. Because respectfully, I don't see enough of it, not just here, but from elected officials serving on other bodies. So shorter statement, take out social strength. Thank you for your time.
Commissioner Torngat.
To comment time on the potential motion, is there a motion on the floor?
We do not have a motion on the floor, and just as a reminder, the proposed vision statement is to be the people's first choice for transportation and a driving force for social, environmental, and economic vitality in the community through innovation and partnership.
Thank you. Again, I'm compelled, I made this point at our workshop, that we keep this as short as possible, and that in the fact then that all that are working for and or with PSTA can remember what the vision statement is. And I look at the vision statement as something where if I were to pull myself up and look down, what would I want to see PSTA having done in the future, or where would I want to see it go? And so when I do that, I use the words, and again, I don't want to be accused of wordsmithing, but to provide connected transit for all from and to their desired locations. So in the vision, when I look down, if PSTA were doing that, that would mean that we would be connected both intra and connected within the other counties as well. So that's why I use it. That's why I presented it that way. And forget the words then, but the concept is that we're providing it for all to and from wherever they wish to go.
Thank you. And I'm going to, we have Commissioner Eggers and Commissioner Johnson who are going to speak next. But Brad, could you interject here for a moment, and let's just level set, and let's have a common understanding of what the definition of a mission statement is vis-a-vis a vision statement.
Sure. And thank you. Again, these are important statements for us now because we're grounding the entire organization's goals down to the individual employee in these statements. That's why we are doing this. A mission statement is defining what you do. Why does PSTA exist? in Pinellas County. What do we do? And a vision statement is what is a future-looking statement, a future looking statement compared to the mission is the current purpose of the organization, and the vision statement is what are we striving for? What is the direction that the organization is moving toward? And that's sort of on the horizon. The vision statement is on the horizon for what we want to become. So connecting people to places is what we do safely. But what the vision is a little larger context. That's why it talks about, and something we've talked about a lot, the social, environmental, and economic components to what transportation provides to our community.
Then if I can conclude my statement.
Yes, sir.
We then went on into the goals, and the goals are the things that you're evaluating people on. The goals, of course, are supposed to be associated with the mission and then leading to the vision. So I stand by what I said. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Eggers.
Well, yeah, and thank you for the first part of your comment, Commissioner Torringa, that said I like to keep it shorter. I certainly agree with that. And there's one that's 4 up there that says to be the people's first choice for transportation, which I think is something that is a good vision, and to affect positive change in the Tampa Bay region. To me, that just says it keeps it short, clean, it keeps it positive, and it keeps it up front as to being that first choice in transportation. I think the rest of it is muddled. I think it's long. I think it's uncertain. I think when you get into social, economic, and fiscal decisions that we make here, like we did in the bus purchases, for instance, that's a whole different animal to get into. This is simply a simple, short comment that everybody can remember about being the first choice in transportation and positive change. I think that's cleaner and more to the point. But that's just my comment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Johnson.
And Commissioner Eggers, I don't mean to disagree with you. I agree that that's very short and simple and to the point. But it seems that for many, many years, people forgot, and people do not now know how important we are, PSTA, to social, environmental, and economic strength. How many people do not have a job, cannot get a job? You got a tiny little taste of it at the very beginning. Thank you. And we have discussed this in other meetings. There are parts of Pinellas County that have no clue that they can get on a bus and go somewhere. They can actually afford it because we're here and because of our mission and because of what we do every day. We have to be strong in this because we do make a huge environmental impact on Pinellas County. We put people to work by providing them transportation, and we keep them working, and we are able to invite large companies to come and stay here because we provide their workers a way to get here and get home. I think it's a very strong statement, and even though it may be long, it's important. It's important that we keep that vision and make it go. Thank you.
Brad, next?
No.
Okay. Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'd like to speak to 2 things that were proposed. I really like the idea of including the wording that's in the staff proposal, which is the people's first choice. I was talking to an individual yesterday, and they were comparing the trolley, Suncoast trolley, and how that was their first choice, and they would decline and really didn't like going on the regular bus. Despite the look of the outside, they're the same vehicles. So we do have a perception mountain to climb. And so I like the inclusion of first choice. I also think it's very important for the proposed vision to reference our role in economic vitality in the community. And this is what I hear from so many people in the business community saying that we need to have a better transit system for economic vitality. So I'm leaning toward supporting the staff proposed vision, although I understand some of the reasons that others might go in a different direction. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And before we move to Commissioner Schulman, I just want to make sure which vision you're referring to when you refer to the staff vision, because I see them as being
The one in the box.
The last one on the page in the box.
okay.
Right, and that was recommended by the executive committee.
Right,
I'm
which is
sorry,
the
yes.
same as the staff review and
Yeah.
PSTA. Okay, thank you. Commissioner Schulman.
Thank you. Originally, when I heard Commissioner Egger speaking, I really felt that the shorter the better. But I also think oftentimes about the other citizens in Pinellas County that don't know what PSTA does. And you hear oftentimes, I don't ride the bus, I don't know why I pay for the bus. And so I believe that speaking to those points is important, and it helps those citizens that aren't on the bus experiencing the mission statement on a daily basis can understand why we're here. The only suggestion I would have would be to, again, not to get into wordsmithing, but to swap positions with social and economic so that economic appears first. I think for some, seeing social first kind of stops them in their tracks and causes them to think more about, they don't get to the rest of the sentence when they start wondering what that is. So switching to a driving force for economic, environmental, and social vitality, I think will allow more people to be on board.
Thank you. Any other comments from board members? So it seems, from what I heard, we have a number of people who are in favor of staying with the proposed vision from the executive committee, and there were a couple of other examples or suggestions put forth to shorten it or to switch words around. I need a motion for where we go next.
I move approval of the first recommendation.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the proposed vision from the PSTA Executive Committee, which is to be, the proposed vision statement is to be the people's first choice for transportation and a driving force for social, environmental, and economic vitality in the community through innovation and partnership. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, and we have a second from Commissioner Barkley. We heard from our public comment. So, Clarissa, would you please prepare the machine for voting? Everyone, you should have a screen where you can vote that has come up on your computers. 4 votes, no. Thank you, everyone. I know these discussions take a while to have about our fundamental values and direction. So thank you all for your patience and your contributions the past few months regarding this item. So our next action item is our small bus purchase. PSTA's Maintenance Director, Henry Lukasik, will walk us through the next item, which is also unanimously recommended by the PSTA's Finance Committee. Henry?
Good morning. As the chair mentioned, this is an action item which was presented to the Finance Committee and unanimously approved, and it's for the purchase of 8 small buses, or we call them cutaways, as they're known in the transit industry. In addition to that, they will also be equipped with PSTA's standard complement of, technological enhancements on each vehicle. So first off, what is a cutaway? Basically, a cutaway is a purpose-built vehicle, and it starts off as a vehicle chassis. You can see two examples on the screen, and those essentially come from manufacturers such as General Motors or Ford Motor Company, Freightliner, etc. From there, they move on to what are called second stage manufacturers, and the passenger body, as you can see on your left, is constructed, assembled, and placed on the vehicle along with other typical transit-style bus amenities such as seats, wheelchair lifts, etc. And once completed, you see what is depicted on your right of your screen, which is a complete vehicle. PSTA started using cutaways on its North County service back in 2012, but in April of 2016, use of those vehicles were discontinued because of ongoing mechanical issues with those particular vehicles, and since they became unreliable, fleet maintenance took them off the road. Why were they unreliable? Basically, it was a case of the fact that the route application, what we like to call duty cycle, exceeded the capability of that particular vehicle. However, smaller vehicles are still a good choice when and where it's called for. Taking lessons learned from the previous generation of those cutaways in operation, fleet maintenance decided to go through and build and recommend a more heavier duty style cutaway vehicle, namely a vehicle such as you see on the screen before you. That vehicle will be equipped with heavier duty components such as powertrain, electrical systems, etc. And as I mentioned before, these buses will also be equipped with PSTA standard complement of technologies for our passengers. In terms of the procurement process, Florida Department of Transportation, in cooperation with the University of South Florida, has a program called TRIPS. Essentially, TRIPS handles all of the legwork that goes into researching and evaluating, along with ensuring compliance with Federal Transit Administration regulations. And as you can see, the bottom point is TRIPS also ensures that the lowest possible prices for these vehicles is achieved, and that's essentially done on a statewide basis through volume pricing. So the vehicle cost is presented before you, and as you can see, the actual vehicle or per vehicle cost is substantially less than a typical transit bus, such as our Gillig buses. But when considering small bus purchases or cutaway purchases, you have to take into account several key points of consideration. There's several advantages of using small buses out in our service. For example, matching the capacity with the demand. So low peak ridership routes can use smaller capacity buses. So these vehicles are particularly good for our North County service, where the peak passengers per hour is between 5 and 9 people. Obviously, a smaller vehicle means better maneuverability through residential neighborhoods, side streets, shopping malls, places where large transit buses have difficulty maneuvering in and out of. Because the vehicle is physically smaller than a transit bus, there's a lower capital cost. It's not as sophisticated as a transit bus, and because it's physically smaller, there's lower operating and maintenance costs that could be assumed. For example, higher fuel economy and lower repair parts costs. However, there are limitations to these vehicles. Some of the limitations, obviously, a smaller vehicle has a lack of capacity, and there could be inflexibility of route assignment. So because there's a limited number of seats available, and standees, as we call them, are generally not permitted on vehicles of this type, this vehicle is not suitable for high passenger loads during peak periods of the day, simply because they just cannot accommodate the number of people. There's a perceived perception that in some cases there may be a lower customer satisfaction. Obviously, these buses have stairs in which people have to climb into the bus as opposed to our low-floor transit buses, which do not have stairs. These buses do not kneel. The ride quality could be somewhat uncomfortable or less comfortable than our large transit buses that have all-around air suspension. There's smaller windows, and the biggest point is that there's only one door to board and exit. So that could mean longer time at bus stops because people need to get off the bus before people can get on the bus because there's only one entrance. There's reliability concerns. Obviously, our previous fleet of cutaways were retired early due to mechanical issues. And even though these buses have heavier duty components, the new ones that are being recommended, intense daily service requirements sometimes are difficult for these particular vehicles. At the end of the day, they are simply not as rugged as a full-size transit bus. However, PSTA is always going to have a mixed fleet of vehicles for the transit services it provides, large or small in size. So the action item again before you, which the Finance Committee unanimously approved moving forward with, is to purchase eight of these cutaway vehicles at $1.3 million, along with all the standard PSTA technologies at $460,000 for a total not to exceed project of $1.76 million. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. And we'll hear first from Commissioner Barkley, the chair of our Finance Committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Finance Committee spent a good deal of time on this subject. The idea behind this project is that we are replacing decommissioned connector vehicles that were really not up to the level of service that we have. And these vehicles are heavier duty, they're Freightliner, they're essentially the same kind of truck chassis that we see on the road with various types of bodies on them. And they are expected to be much more durable, and the specifications that we have for these vehicles are such that we don't anticipate the kinds of system failures that we had with the prior fleet. And we're hopeful that this will provide a high level of service for the routes where the large buses that we have traditionally been using will not really be effective. So we hope that these new buses will do the job for those identified routes. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Eggers.
Yeah, well, we had a good talk in the Finance Committee about it, and one of the questions that I had asked, and I don't know if you're prepared any of that information, was to kind of get a mix of all of our routes and how many peak out at under that number, whatever that number is, so we know how many routes are actually eligible for a bus like this. So that was my only question. So
we're working on that. Are we getting it together?
Well, yes, we are prepared.
Oh, there you go.
Good morning, Cassandra Butchers, Chief Development
Thank you,
Officer.
Sandra.
We did take a look at our peak loads for all of our routes, as you requested, and have found that there are a couple of routes that we could put these on, specifically the 444 and the 65. We think that those peak capacities would allow us to do that. There are a couple others that are getting very close to the 20-seat capacity, and so maybe there are another 4 routes that we could take a look at these. That might be another 6 buses.
6 in total?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Scott.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I want to commend Henry and his team for doing an excellent job of specking out these vehicles. Just a couple points I wanted to bring up that we talked about in the Finance Committee is these buses will get about 25% better fuel economy than the full-size Gillig bus will. And as a point of comparison, the capital cost on these, just the base vehicle, is $159,000 versus a 30-foot Gillig bus, which is about $400,000. So there's a significant cost savings there on the capital upfront side. Also, Henry's done an excellent job of speccing the heaviest duty components that he can in these, as far as the HVAC, suspension, electrical system. I talked with him about it at length after the meeting, and he's really done a good job with that. So I commend him for that. These vehicles should give us much better service than the ones that they're replacing. And I recently spec'd, about 6 months ago, vehicles very similar to this, and I will tell you that $159,000 price point is a good price. So we're getting a good deal here. So I would certainly support this, and I would make a motion that we approve it.
Second.
Thank you. Commissioner Long.
Well, I don't know if this question belongs in this category, Henry, or if it's for Cassandra or Brad. But at some point along the way, I remember having a conversation about whether or not we were doing anything to establish a pilot project in Pinellas County for driverless buses. And since we're so innovative and we try so hard to be on the front burner of the newest and the greatest technologies, I don't hear much happening about that. And I'm kind of curious because I know there's one going on over in Hillsborough.
I can try to tackle that. Yes, we are very interested in seeing if we might be able to pilot an autonomous shared use vehicle of some sort. I had this conversation with Senator Brandis, who, as you know, is somewhat of a leader in looking at these kinds of issues, and he expressed a strong interest in doing a Pinellas County pilot somewhere in his district, I would imagine. And so, but he suggested that we work on a proposal and work with him, not during the current session, but to be prepared for next legislative session for some sort of autonomous vehicle pilot.
Great. Thank you.
And Brad, before we move on, I just think it's important to distinguish between the terms automated vehicles and driverless cars and driverless vehicles.
Well, I know that you are
Okay.
You are a great transportation geek who would maybe be better at answering that than me.
Okay. Well, I just didn't want anyone to hear this and think that we were jumping straight into driverless vehicles.
Oh, okay.
But automated vehicles utilize a number of different ways to communicate from the vehicle to other vehicles to vehicle to infrastructure, which really goes a long way to helping promote safety, and it goes a long way to whether it's communicating with infrastructure for timing green lights or for being alerted that there's an accident ahead and to slow down, or a sharp curve. There's warning signs that kind of come back to the vehicle. It's all very interesting. It's all very much done in the name of safety, but it's there is still someone piloting and driving the car. Okay. Yes.
Actually, I was talking about driverless cars, because I do know the difference. And my
Yes.
question was specific to driverless buses.
Okay. Thank you.
Wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Beavis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just for clarification, so did the old cutaways, they've been retired off of the road, is that?
Yes, sir.
And I guess to that question, they were replaced with something in the interim?
They were replaced with our 29-foot heavy-duty Gillig buses.
Okay, and then I guess the next question is, with the purchase, if approved of the 8, will they retire some older vehicles then? Just trying to figure out the progression.
Yes, if the motion is approved, we'll be able to retire more of our 2001 model buses, probably 2 of the 29-foot 2002 model year buses that we have been using on the service. Yes.
Okay, great, thank you.
Commissioner Tornga.
Just a couple questions, just for clarification and understanding. When I went through the numbers, and I just used the $220,000 per bus, fully outfitted and ready to go, and that number is very much appreciated if we're really trying to get transportation for all throughout the entire county. Obviously, there's a limit from our CIP as to what we can accomplish, and that's a great savings, and I appreciate the outfitting of the vehicles and what you're talking about. The number of seats that are available, I've heard another number here, and I didn't bring my notes here. I forgot my notes, but I thought I had written down 12 to 18 on these buses, and I didn't have time to look that up right now. But so what are the capacities of these by seat then, and what is it by standing, and what is the capacity of those that are challenged getting out of vehicle of getting on this? Do they have capacity for them? And then we talked about the routes, and we talked about the peak passengers, and we mentioned the 5 to 9 here. That are there some of what's not being utilized during the non-peak? How many folks are actually on these buses? Compare, for example, if they hold, I think I heard the number of 20 just a few minutes ago, or some other number like that. Are they running virtually in the non-peak area with 3 to 4 people on them, or what? Just for information purposes. And then I appreciate the comment about the autonomous or driverless vehicles. Although that may be a part of this, the significance is that wouldn't it be great if we did have some of that activity going on with us? And I don't know if it applies to these buses or not, but to any bus that we have within the system. I think it's a great point to continue for us to bring it up, to keep it in front of all of us. But if you would just respond to a couple, they're just the real basic questions, the number of seats, the peaks, and the like.
Sure. I will talk to the configurability of the vehicle in terms of seating. So these particular vehicles that we are asking for approval for are going to have 12 to 14 physical seats. That final number will be determined upon how the final floor plan and the layout of the seats look in the bus, taking into account that all of these vehicles will have 2 positions for folks in mobility devices. These vehicles have the ability to be configured up to 30-plus seats. Obviously, that's a much longer vehicle, and once you get into that size vehicle, then it really starts making sense to start looking at heavy-duty transit buses, because if you're carrying that many people, that's what it's designed for, high-peak passenger loads. In terms of the peak passengers for our service that we'll be operating those on, Cassandra?
So looking at each of the routes that we have and the peak passenger loads that we count with our automatic passenger counters, we have several routes that could fit some of these vehicles. We would probably have to look at maybe some of the larger vehicles that Henry is describing in order to accommodate those. But understand that the standee issue is critical. So when we have a peak load of 35, you may not want to put one that just has seats for 30 on that route. We do design the bus that we use and put out on the street for that peak passenger load, and with the understanding that some of those may be standing depending on the bus that is out there. This is no different than how other transportation systems are planned. If you go out to the interstate at 10 p.m. at night, you will see a lot of capacity there. They build the road for the peak capacity to make sure that they can keep traffic flowing. We do the same here. We choose the right vehicle for the peak capacity so that we do not have to put out 2 separate buses for a single road.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Torga. Commissioner Gerard.
Just a couple of questions. I'm sure I missed something. What is the Clever device that we're Clever?
That is our AVL system. That is our CAD system that provides the real-time information.
Okay, got it. All right. And these will have wheelchair lifts on them?
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
Great. You want to go next? Are you in here? Okay, Commissioner Long.
I asked my question already.
Okay.
I'm good, thank you.
Great.
It's off now.
Okay, so now time for public comments. We have a public comment card from Mr. Rask.
Okay. Right away? Okay, on this item, there are 4 documents listed on the agenda, and the first 2 I can't pull up on my phone. I tried it right before doing it here. Now, I know that when you went to the new website, when PSTA went to the new website, they did it because supposedly, I heard, 3/4 of users use mobile devices. So I couldn't see the first 2 documents listed. I can show you on my phone if you're interested. Route 444 was mentioned. That's a route that has been discussed for termination or cancellation since the 90s. It is by far PSTA's lowest performing route. If you're buying these buses to put them, for instance, on the 444, another option would be to simply cancel. So the issue of, just want to get back to a second, the inability to pull up the document, Article 1, Section 1 of the Florida Constitution, all political power is inherent in the people. That's the first thing mentioned. I'm not the people, but I'm one of the people. And Commissioner Long mentioned that PSTA embraces that they're innovative and that they embrace technology. It's something I've heard from others. Your agency is not required to post your agendas, but this is the year 2017. And as somebody who has operated commercial websites for 21 years, profit-making venture, I'd suggest that PSTA adopt what I've done in my business, which is be the user of the website. So when you try it on the phone, it's supposed to be a mobile-friendly site, just go to the agenda, click on every item, make sure every item works. And I'd be happy to assist PSTA in finding if there's a problem specific to Android or whatever it is. But on your website, please be the user, and I would encourage board members to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rask. Okay, so without any other board member comments, we do have a motion on the floor from Commissioner Scott and a second from Commissioner Patty Johnson. And the motion is to approve the purchase of 8 replacement buses off a state DOT contract at a total cost not to exceed $1,760,000. Clarissa, could you please prepare the machine for voting? And everyone should have a screen to vote before you. Is there anyone who's having trouble voting?
Oh, wait, I didn't say no. Oh, no, okay, I'm looking at the wrong box.
I believe we have Commissioner Bennett who's voting no. And Commissioner Wheeler-Bowman? Is a yes?
Yes.
Okay, so this passes with 13 yes votes to 1 no. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Informational items, 7A, public engagement outreach. We do have a PSTA 101 session planned after this meeting, so a lot of this information about our community outreach is included in our packet. Oh, excuse me, I need to finish my cup of coffee this morning. So our next item is 6D, the Federal Sandbox Grant, and we're going to hear from Chris Cochran. This was unanimously recommended by the Planning Committee, but the committee asked that it be presented to the entire board because this Sandbox program, it's not just innovative, but it's also so beneficial to our DART paratransit customers, one of our biggest contracts.
So, Chris, as you know, has been doing a great job in identifying and working on the cutting edge of this mobility management issues. And so he's going to present, I think, a very exciting project that we got a federal grant for next. And I'm sorry that we had an opportunity. We have a number of all-stars in the room, in the back of the room there, that could have clearly answered that mobility, that autonomous vehicle versus automated vehicle question that I couldn't answer. There are folks from both the Shared Use Mobility Center here, including CEO Sharon Fagan and her team, and they're from Chicago. And then there's another organization called the Transit Center with Chris Pangilinan and Mel Plant, who are here. They are all consultants from the Federal Transit Administration that are here at PSTA. They're doing a magical tour across the United States to all 11 recipients, including PSTA, of this federal sandbox grant that we received to look at these innovations that are going all across the country at all these different systems, including ours that Chris is leading. So it's a very exciting program that Chris is going to talk to you about.
Thank you, Brad. Try to make this quick here. The action item that you have before you was again unanimously recommended by the Planning Committee and is asking for approval from the board to provide our CEO with the authority to approve and execute the 5 contracts necessary to carry out this federal grant. Seeing that we do have, it's been a while since we presented this project to you, and we certainly have some new members on the board. I will very quickly give you a background on the project as well. In 2016, PSTA was awarded $500,000 and was one of 11 agencies across the United States from a pool of 78, I believe, eligible programs to lead a FTA-funded research and demonstration program to explore new and cutting-edge mobility on demand models. Really, the idea behind the Sandbox grant was for us to identify key partners going into this application and whom we all sort of get in the same, they call it the sandbox, and sort of get in the same sandbox and play around with ideas and see what comes out of them. PSTA was elected to demonstrate the new leveraging new and emerging technologies in the paratransit arena, which has a dramatic impact on all agencies across the nation. And we're very honored and excited to be able to do this program. Our project approach here really involves first and foremost demonstrating how this business model of looking to create more cost-effective and efficient paratransit services fits into this growing concept of mobility on demand, which ultimately seeks to create a more integrated and connected multimodal network for both safe and reliable transportation for all users, which I think fits well into our new vision and mission statement as well. Quickly moving through here, you all have this graphic in your agenda, and really it's a very sort of high-level view of how this will work. We have our software vendor on site as well today. Going Software will be the innovative platform from which we will be demonstrating this pilot with our partners Lyft, United Taxi of Clearwater, and CareRide. Essentially what we're trying to demonstrate is people's ability to be able to call into PSTA, and we will be able to leverage the technology of the Goin app to tap into our existing database of DART customers, and we'll be able to customize the choices for their mode to be able to get where they want to go on demand in real time, as opposed to the traditional 24 hours in advance service. It's a very exciting opportunity that not only are we able to demonstrate and provide, hoping to be able to demonstrate and provide a more cost-effective and efficient and reliable means of providing this paratransit service, but at a dramatically discounted rate as well through leveraging existing partnerships with Lyft, who is a transportation network provider, company, United Taxi, and CareRide. So again, just to quickly go over our partners here that we're asking for, we have been in the very early planning stages since January. We're really now at the point where we need to execute the contracts with our 5 partners to continue moving forward with this program. Going Software is one of them. We have Lyft, who is a transportation network company, United Taxi of Clearwater, CareRide, who is our existing paratransit provider. We also have a 5th in the Center for Urban Transportation Research, who will be doing essentially a independent evaluation, who we will be providing data to. They're helping us develop performance metrics, will help us determine the feasibility of our ability to continue to meet these performance goals and whether or not this is really a program that will be able to continue long term. So with that, again, the Planning Committee unanimously voted to approve this recommendation, and we ask that of you now.
Thank you for a great report. Do we have any comments from our board members? Questions, comments?
Motion to approve?
Okay. Commissioner Johnson.
I was just going to make the motion.
Oh, sorry.
That Doug did, and I'm very, very, very excited. This is
great.
This is a leap forward. This isn't a step forward. This is a leap. Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
defer my motion to you then.
No, that's okay.
Well, we need a second.
I'm clear how it gets there.
Okay. Commissioner Scott.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So Chris, I see this is from February this year through March of 2019. So is this a 2-year pilot project?
Yes, sir. So the schedule is that we are in the planning, and which involves the development of the operation plan. We have a staffing plan, as well as the development of the software to operate it. That will carry out through, projected through the middle of January next year, and then we will actually be doing the operations of the rides for a minimum of 12 months as required by the grant. And that will run from January 19th of 18 through January 19th of 19.
Any estimate, any idea how many rides we anticipate?
It's hard to tell. One of our ideas is that people will end up taking more rides, and there will be sort of a latent demand that will be discovered here, and people's ability to take on-demand rides. Maybe if they used to take 3 or 4 a week, now they're going to take 5, 6, 7 a week. So it's hard to tell. We, being that we do have a budget of operations, we are starting with a small pilot group. And we will grow that pilot group at a sustainable rate to ensure we don't go over our grant.
That was going to be my next question. Is there a chance we run out of money?
No, because we will plan it correctly.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. And Chris, could you sum up again, what this means for savings for our DART customers?
Absolutely. Right now our idea is that the copay will remain the same, despite the fact that it is a premium service, and that'll be part of our evaluation and perhaps what people may be willing to pay for a premium-related service. But ultimately, for the agency, we're talking about significant savings. Right now, I believe our average is in the mid to high 20s per trip for paratransit. And Lyft and the transportation network companies do not charge a higher rate just because you are in a wheelchair or you are disabled. And that is, as we all know, the models that TNCs work under are dramatically cheaper than even taxis to some extent, as we demonstrated in our other programs. So, I see there being potential for huge savings for the agency and overall better service for the customer.
Okay, thank you. So I do not have any public comments on this item, so we will move ahead. We have a motion on the floor from Mayor Beavis and a second from Commissioner Johnson. And the motion is to authorize our PSTA CEO to approve all key federal sandbox grant partner contracts at a total cost not to exceed $625,000. And it looks like our computers are prepared for voting. If you could please, commissioners, please cast your vote. And this passes unanimous. Information in our packet. Brad, is there any comment that you wanted to make on this section before we move on to reports and correspondence? Okay, so we'll move on to reports and correspondence.
Thank you. I'll just quickly walk through the different reports you have and just highlight a couple of items that we've passed out at your places before we move on to our PSTA 101 session. As far as some of the performance statistics, I did want to highlight another innovative project that PSTA has worked on. Our Direct Connect First Mile, Last Mile partnership with Uber is moving along very nicely. We've seen a doubling of ridership since that was launched countywide back in February, and that is in your packet. And we're getting some more information about where the rides are being, where the connections are being made from Uber. So that program is moving along nicely. I also want to give a shout out to Henry and his maintenance team. If you look at the miles between road calls, which is a stat that we put in there every single month, which is a good thing if it goes up. That means the number of miles between any one of our vehicles breaking down is longer, and the number I think is 23,000 or something. It's the highest ever recorded in a given month. So great job to Henry and the maintenance team. And that number has continued to climb, and we've reached a new peak. Last but not least, I just wanted to highlight the 3 packets of promotional flyers that you each have at your places. I think you have a packet of about 5 of each. These are 3 promotions that we're doing in the month of June. And my thought was to employ the great board members of PSTA and your amazing networks of people that you can send these out to people or hand these to people or take a photo of it and post it on Facebook or tweet it out or whatever you want to do. Let me just quickly highlight. I know because my kids are out. Tomorrow is the last day of school. And so this hall pass is a $35 pass for kids 18 and under to ride for one price all summer. They can ride to the end of August for $35. And usually we've been selling this pass every summer, but we're trying to make a real big promotional effort this time for this hall pass. So if you know, or if you have any teenagers like I do, that's that one. The second one is kind of related to that. We are participating with a number of folks, the City of Clearwater, the Juvenile Welfare Board, in promoting their Break Spot program. The Juvenile Welfare Board sponsors, along with others, meals during the summer months for kids since they won't get a school lunch. They provide lunch to more than 100 places around Pinellas County every single day. And we're having a kickoff that you're all invited to, where we will be passing out some of these hall passes as an incentive for teenagers to come and participate in these break spot lunches. I guess usually the program over the past years has mostly gotten elementary school age kids, and they're really trying to do a big effort to try to get more teens, middle school and high schoolers to come. And so that's on June 6th at noon at the North Greenwood Recreational Center in Clearwater. And there's pizza and fun there. Last but not least is an experiment that we're trying at PSTA with our monthly pass. This is our monthly pass that retails for $70. These are for folks that are not transportation disadvantaged. Most of the monthly passes by far that we sell are for TD transportation disadvantaged customers at $11, but for those of higher income, they're $70. And copying this off of some other transit agencies that have experimented with this, about offering a kind of a half-off price option. And other transit agencies have actually made up in volume what they lost in revenue. So we're going to see what happens with that just during the month of June. So I am going to be trying to ride the bus and not drive my car during the month of June. So I'll be buying this $35 pass. There's no coincidence in when we're offering the half price and when I'm going to be riding. But and if you know of somebody else who might want to ride the bus, show off this flyer too. Last but not least, before I see you again, on June 24th, PSTA will be participating in the St. Pete Pride Parade, and that's a major event, as you might know, in downtown St. Pete. We're providing shuttle services. We do provide a lot of rides for people that are going to and from the parade, which is going to be right in the downtown of St. Pete this year. And then we have a bus that we've had board members in the past, and we certainly would welcome any board members to join our rainbow-colored bus that will be in that parade. And that concludes my updates.
Great, thank you. And how about our future meeting subjects?
Again, on the looking ahead to the June and the next few meetings, we will be starting to get into our FY 2018 budget, which you'll hear a little snapshot of in just a moment as part of our PSTA 101 from Debbie. But June, you'll have a draft budget before you. We'll also give a presentation on our business scorecard initiative. July will be the trim notice meeting, and then the budget will be approved in September. So the next few months are kind of focused on the budget.
Great, thank you. Is there any other business items before we move on to board member comments? Okay, board member comments. Commissioner Eggers.
Yeah, just real quick, Brad, I think we are all taking a hard look at our budgets in the next year or two based on that exemption that's been proposed.
Yeah.
Is that going to be part of our budget discussion process over the next
Yes.
3 months, and the kinds of things that we're going to have to start addressing?
Yeah, definitely.
Even though, when is it supposed to go into effect? If it does, if it passes next year, it would be the 19 budget?
2019.
The 19?
Yeah, that's my understanding, is that the vote is in November of 2018, impact.
Which would be, that is the 19 budget. So it would,
Right, so it would actually impact the
the
2020
budget.
budget.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And at least the projections we're getting from the Pinellas County appraisers is about a $2 million hit. It would represent a $2 million impact to the PSTA ad valorem revenue.
And we're already maxed out on our millage rate.
Right.
Okay, Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you. Yesterday, I heard a presentation on the Regional Transit Feasibility Plan at our Clearwater Regional Chamber of Commerce. We've all heard this before, and I've maybe made some of these comments before, but this has sort of evolved a little bit. As I understand, the current plan is to have a technical model developed by the end of this year, and then to have wide public vetting of that plan during the calendar year of 2018. Mr. Pringle reported that it is much easier if you have a technical model to have a discussion with the public because something tangible is available to look at and to talk about and become a basis for a decision of moving forward at that time. But nonetheless, I have a process concern that the discussion of a solution will detract from the development of a public consensus on the need which we're trying to solve. And so I just share that comment with you as we move forward on that. I would also mention that as part of my role as your representative to the MPO Forward Pinellas, that I attended the MPO AC, that's the statewide organization's Weekend Institute, and it was really a fantastic information sharing. I know Mayor Beavis also attended that. He may have a different opinion, but I thought it was very important, and I would suggest that we might be able to get a mini briefing on that for our board. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. And Commissioner Barkley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to thank everybody for the vote on the small bus purchase. This is an item that's been an issue for us for a long time. There's been a lot of work put into it by Henry and many other staff members. And hopefully this will alleviate some of the negativity that we have heard from the public with regard to the empty buses syndrome, because we will be using a bus that fits the size of the riding public in certain locations. So hopefully this is a positive thing and will improve our image around the routes that are affected. I also want to make sure that all of us are out and about talking to groups with regard to PSTA, Talk Up PSTA. I recently attended the mayor's luncheon, as did Mayor Beavis, and the CEO of Hart was there, which I thought was a little out of place in Pinellas County. But I think the point that we do need to take is that each of us needs to be promoting PSTA around the county. So I encourage myself and everyone else to do that. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you. Any other comments? Commissioner Barkley, I want to thank you for drawing attention to the contract that we approved today for smaller buses. This is something that we've been working on for a long time to look for ways that we can become a more nimble agency and look for ways to reduce the size and expenses and fuel economy when we can to run a better agency. I'd also just want to highlight some other good news that happened today, but the $505,000 grant to continue our TD late shift, again, I just want to underline that 3 times and put an exclamation point by it. It really shows how we're being an innovative agency that's responding to the needs of our ridership. And last but certainly not least, I would again like to welcome our newest commissioner, Richard Bennett, to the PSTA board from Reddington Beach, and we look forward to working with you very much. So we will now adjourn our meeting. Our next meeting is June 28th at 9 a.m. here in this same location. Our PSTA 101 session will follow this meeting. We'll come back here in 10 minutes. Thank you.
He's not. There was a